Well, this may come as no surprise to you, but Joe Biden is now officially funding Ukraine once again more than the natural disasters occurring in America. That's not what we have to talk about in this video, though. I will quickly address it. There's something more devastating that I have to talk about in this video, and it does have to do with Ukraine. First, though, let's quickly hit this. Yes, Joe Biden is asking for $13 billion in additional funding, once again, for Ukraine, more aid. That's $8 billion in humanitarian support and another $5 million actually, I'm sorry, wait a second here. That's $13 billion in emergency defense aid, plus $8 billion for humanitarian aid. That is a combined $21 billion for Ukraine, as well as $12 billion for the Hawaii disaster relief. What's going on in Hawaii? Completely devastating, by the way. Over 55 people now declared dead, with 1,000 still missing. That's the scary reality, is you still have 1,000 people missing. People were bailing out of their cars, jumping into the ocean to escape these fires that came out of nowhere. Unexpectedly high winds with devastating fires. People thought this was just a storm, and then all of a sudden you get these terrible, horrific fires. Very, very scary and devastating. But what's also scary is how we could potentially be walking into a forever war, or already involved in a forever war in Ukraine. And that's where I'd like to bring this up. F-16 training for Ukrainian pilots faces delays and uncertainty. Okay, this seems like a benign Washington Post article, right? But this is where things really bother me a little bit. We were told this Ukrainian defense would be short-term, that this war would be over, and we'll just come in, we'll help Ukraine, we'll arm them, they'll be fine, they'll push the Russians back, they'll have this spring offensive, which now it's fall, and the spring offensive has never come, and basically, we were told this was going to be short. We're just going to fund Ukraine to defend against this invasion, and then it'll be over. Well, now it's turned into, let's fund Ukraine forever. And that's basically what this Washington Post article is telling us. Listen to some of these comments. You ready for some of these comments? I want you to think as you hear these comments, if this sounds like we're facing a short-term war. You ready for this? A first group of 6 Ukrainian pilots is not expected to complete its training on US F-16s until the summer of 2024. In addition to that, after, we were saying, no, we're not going to provide training or fighter jets, and now we are going to provide them, Ukraine will probably endure another year without fighters, but wait for it. Combat training is expected to take 6 months and is not even starting until January of 2024. So in other words, nobody actually in the US government thinks this war is going to end anytime soon, and US support for it is going to end anytime soon. Instead, it's going to continue for a very long period of time. But not only that, listen to this comment. A second group of fighter pilots are going to get ready 6 months after that to be ready at the end of 2024. In other words, we're already setting up one group of pilots to start training in January of 2024, the next group of pilots to get ready in July of 2024. That actually means you're not expecting to have these fighter pilots ready until the end of 2024, the beginning of 2025, more realistically, which means this war that began at the beginning of 2022 will probably be a 3-year war just based on what we're reading now. You've already got Ukrainians taking English classes. You've got, Lockheed Martin jumping up and down about this. Lockheed Martin bragging about how this single-engine F-16 debuting in the 70s and updated since then that can fly as fast as nearly Mach 2 at 1,500 miles per hour with roughly 3,000 in operation worldwide. You basically have them bragging about how this is great for business. Now, they've got a lot of backlogs, but boy, they are booking out their book of business for the next years in not only new supply, but restocking what has already been burned and used in this battle, this proxy war against Russia. And in addition to this, we get these, continued sort of Bezos-esque discussions of, oh, Kyiv, don't worry, they're ready to launch their ambitious program of pushing Russia back. good luck, man. This is trench warfare. It's like what Elon mentioned in his Twitter Spaces the other day. You're killing people for inches of territory. You have to remember how Russia is fighting this war. Russia is continuously building trenches in these sort of zigzag patterns with minefields around these trenches, making it very difficult for any kind of progress to be made in Ukraine. You're just fighting a trench warfare battle, which is probably exactly what the military-industrial complex wants and desires. And guess what? They're getting it. It's unfortunate, though, because it's a disaster for not only the amount of lives that are being lost, but also, quite frankly, for the amount of money that's being spent in Ukraine and not on American priorities. Again, I'm not here to say that the loss of life isn't something that the entire world should come around and support. We should prevent the loss of life in any way possible. But unfortunately, now it seems like we have politicians that are continuously supporting what seems to be now this forever conflict, where it seems like there may even be U.S. incentives, probably the lobbying group of the military-industrial complex, encouraging this war not to end anytime soon. Remember where the phrase lobbying comes from, by the way. A lot of us have forgotten the origin, the etymology of lobbying. Lobbying comes from people standing in the lobby of Congress and then trying to encourage politicians who are leaving their offices or chambers, the congressional chambers, to do whatever those lobbyists are representing. So the old school way was you'd put a bunch of pretty women in the halls of Congress, and as the dudes would come out, wine and dine them to try to get your initiatives put into law. Remember the COVID bill, how like the COVID bills were 5,000 pages long? You'd have lobbyists who basically wrote on behalf of their industries, wrote the sections of the laws and be like, here, can you just slide this into the law? That's how you get loopholes thrown into law. It's not actually the congressmen and women writing all these. They put together a lot of the lobbyist stuff. Thanks for writing that for me. We'll shove that together. Thanks for that. Thanks for the dinner and the cruise and, the RV for our members of the Supreme Court. Oh, wait, that's a whole nother video. Yeah, nice, beautiful RV for Clarence Thompson. Boy, it jades you, doesn't it? Politics just jades you. It's what I've found. Anyway, it's sad. It needs to come to an end. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem like it's coming to an end anytime soon. Now, I want you to know this. When it comes to AI, time is what's going to make you money. And if you can prove that value to an employer, you'll always be able to be employed. So this is another way of making sure that you don't get replaced by artificial intelligence. If you can master AI by starting on the ground floor, let's go.